Welcome to Byte-Sized L&D, your quick, no-nonsense update on the latest in workplace learning. Today, we're diving into the critical issue of burnout, exploring the 6 key areas that contribute to it, and whether quitting is the right solution. We'll also discuss how understanding these factors can help you make informed career choices. All right, let's get straight into it.
All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Byte-Sized L&D, where we tackle the tough work-life questions that keep you up at night. I'm Donna, joined as always by my insightful co-host.
Yakov Lasker here, ready to dive into a topic that's affecting way too many of us these days. That fog of exhaustion, frustration, and feeling completely undervalued at work. What we now officially recognize as burnout.
Oh man, I can practically feel everyone nodding along right now. That feeling when you're so done with your job that you're drafting resignation emails in your head during meetings.
Exactly. And the big question on everyone's mind is, should I just quit? Is that the answer? Because let's be honest, sometimes it feels like the only escape hatch from the burnout inferno.
But throwing in the towel isn't always the right move, is it? I mean, I've definitely had moments where I was convinced leaving was the only option, only to find that making some changes actually turned things around.
That's the tricky part. Burnout isn't just about being tired. It's this complex monster with multiple heads. Did you know the World Health Organization now recognizes burnout as an official medical diagnosis? It's not just in our heads.
Wow, that's actually validating to hear. And there's research that can help us figure out whether to salvage our current situation or whether it's truly time to update that resume, right?
Absolutely, there's this framework called the Areas of Worklife model that identifies 6 specific imbalances that lead to burnout. What's fascinating is that sometimes fixing just 1 or 2 of these areas can completely transform your experience at work.
Lay it on me. What are these 6 magical areas we should be looking at?
First up is probably the most obvious one, workload. When your workload consistently exceeds your capacity, you never get those crucial opportunities for recovery and growth.
Oh, I've been there. Constant deadlines, inbox always exploding, and that feeling that you're always behind no matter how many hours you put in.
Right. But before updating your LinkedIn profile, there are some concrete steps to try first. How's your planning? Are you prioritizing effectively? Have you mastered the art of saying no?
That last one hits hard. I'm recovering from chronic people-pleasing myself. I used to say yes to everything, and then wonder why I was drowning in work while my colleagues seemed to have reasonable schedules.
It's surprisingly common. I had a client who was about to quit her dream job because she felt constantly overwhelmed. When we dug deeper, we discovered she was taking on tasks that should have been delegated to 3 different people on her team.
Let me guess. She didn't want to bother them?
Exactly. Once she started properly delegating and setting boundaries, her burnout symptoms dramatically improved within weeks. Sometimes it's about giving ourselves permission to work smarter, not harder.
Okay, so workload is one area. What's next?
The second area is perceived lack of control. This is when you feel like you have little autonomy, limited access to resources, or no voice in decisions that directly impact your work.
That feeling when everyone else seems to be deciding your priorities, and you're just along for the ride.
Precisely. To address this, you need to identify exactly what's making you feel powerless. Is it a boss who texts at 11 p.m. expecting immediate responses, constantly shifting priorities, or simply not having the resources to do your job properly?
I had a previous manager who would completely reorganize our project priorities every other day. It was impossible to make meaningful progress on anything, and it drove me absolutely nuts.
And what did you do about it?
I actually scheduled a meeting specifically to discuss how the constant reprioritization was affecting productivity. I came with specific examples and suggested a weekly priority setting meeting instead, with an agreement that emergencies would be the only exception for changes midweek.
And did it work?
It did. Not perfectly, but enough to make a huge difference in my stress levels. She honestly hadn't realized the impact of her management style.
That's a perfect example of what the research suggests. Sometimes you can influence your environment more than you think. The key is determining what you can change versus what's truly fixed.
All right, so we've covered workload and control. What's the third area?
The third is reward, both extrinsic and intrinsic. When the rewards don't match the effort you're investing, burnout often follows.
Makes sense. Nobody wants to feel like they're giving 110% for minimal recognition or compensation.
Exactly. And the solution might be surprisingly straightforward. Ask for what you need. That could mean requesting a raise, seeking more recognition, or even just taking the benefits you've already earned.
Like actually using those vacation days instead of letting them pile up.
You'd be surprised how many people don't. I remember feeling burned out a few years ago and realized I hadn't taken more than a long weekend in over 18 months. Taking a proper 2-week vacation was genuinely transformative.
I feel like this connects to the fourth area, which is
Community. The people you work with and the quality of those relationships have a massive impact on your well-being.
this one's interesting because you often can't choose your colleagues, right?
True, but you can often influence the dynamic. Simple things like genuinely asking how someone's day is going, acknowledging good work, or addressing conflicts respectfully can shift the entire atmosphere.
I've seen this play out in real time. My current team had this incredibly negative member who constantly complained. It was pulling everyone down until our manager started a wins of the week tradition at the beginning of each meeting.
Did it help?
It actually transformed our culture. Even the negative colleagues started contributing positive moments, and it changed how we interacted with each other. But I'll be honest, if that hadn't worked, I probably would have considered leaving. Toxic environments can be impossible to fix as just one person.
That's a crucial point. Sometimes you've done all you can. And if others aren't willing or able to improve relationships, it might indeed be time to look elsewhere.
What about the fifth area?
Fairness. This is about whether you believe you're receiving equitable treatment compared to others.
Oh, like when your colleague gets praised for work you contributed to, or when certain team members always get deadline extensions while you're held to the original timeline.
Exactly that. And the first step in addressing fairness issues is, you guessed it, speaking up. People are often unaware of their biases or won't take action until directly asked.
I struggle with this one. It feels uncomfortable to point out what seems unfair.
It absolutely can be. One approach is to ask questions rather than make accusations. Something like, I noticed the Chicago team got an additional week for their project. Could you help me understand why that's not possible for our team as well?
That does sound less confrontational than what I was imagining. It's about gathering information first.
Right. And if patterns of unfairness persist despite your best efforts to address them respectfully, that might be a stronger indicator that the environment isn't right for you long term.
And what's the final area in this burnout framework?
The sixth area is values mismatch. When your personal values clash significantly with your company's values, motivation tends to plummet.
This feels like the most fundamental one in some ways. If you're working somewhere that runs counter to what you believe in, that's a deep source of dissonance.
Absolutely, and values are often deeply ingrained in both individuals and organizations, making them difficult to change. When evaluating this element, you need to consider how important alignment is to you personally.
I remember working briefly at a company that consistently prioritized short-term profits over customer well-being, despite claiming the opposite in their mission statement. The disconnect was exhausting.
That kind of misalignment can be particularly draining because it creates cognitive dissonance. You're either compromising your values or fighting an uphill battle every day.
So in cases like that, is quitting usually the answer?
It often is, but not always. Sometimes organizations evolve, especially with new leadership. The key questions to ask yourself are, how do the leaders and teams around me make decisions and allocate resources? Do I feel good about those underlying motivations? And importantly, do they seem open to change?
That makes sense. So to wrap things up, burnout isn't just about being overworked. It's this complex interplay of workload, control, reward, community, fairness, and values.
Exactly. And the decision to stay or leave shouldn't be made impulsively. By systematically evaluating these 6 areas, you can often identify specific changes that might make your current job sustainable and even enjoyable again.
But if you've genuinely tried to make improvements across these dimensions and nothing's changing, that's when it might be time to look for greener pastures.
Precisely. The key takeaway is this. Before you quit, make sure you understand exactly what's fueling your burnout and attempt to address those factors first. Sometimes the right adjustment can transform your experience.
And sometimes the right adjustment is updating your resume. Both outcomes are valid.
Absolutely. The goal isn't necessarily to stay in your current job. It's to make an informed decision that supports your well-being and career growth.
Well, there you have it, folks. A framework for navigating the "should I quit?" question when burnout has you in its grip. Remember, understanding the root causes of your burnout is the first step toward resolving it, whether that means making changes in your current role or finding a new one.
And if you're currently experiencing burnout, know that you're not alone. Take care of yourself and don't hesitate to seek professional support if needed.
That's all for today's episode of Byte-Sized L&D. I'm Donna.
And I'm Yakov Lasker. That's a wrap for today's discussion on tackling burnout by assessing key areas like workload, control, and community to decide if changes or new opportunities are necessary. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this episode with your friends and colleagues so they can also stay updated on the latest news and gain powerful insights. Stay tuned for more updates.